It was Bayern Munich who came out on top at Wembley in May. 4 months later, it all begins again. 32 teams, 8 groups, 125 games, but only one winner. The top 5 European leagues have spent over 2.2 billion euros on the world's greatest players as they chase club football's biggest prize. They all want it, but only one can have it. 12 teams have won it since its inception in 1992, but who will join them in the most exclusive club of them all? Hi guys, I'm Nat Coombs. Welcome to Champions Club. Joining me today, our international football writer Peter Staunton and Champions League winner Didi Hamann. So the Champions League kicking off this week, and we're going to concentrate first things first on the star players. The players for you, Pete, that are really going to stand out this year.
Well, from the big teams, it's hard to look past, obviously, Messi and Ronaldo, but there's two interesting signings going into those two Clasico clubs this year. Obviously, Gareth Bale has taken all the headlines, but I think Isco and Neymar could very well provide the spark that those two clubs need just to alter their strategies and maybe go that little bit further in the Champions League this year. Neymar should free up Lionel Messi a little bit and give Barcelona another outlet in their attack. And also Isco is already early on in his Real Madrid career become that prompter, that creator that they've lacked at times when Mesut Özil wasn't capable of fulfilling that duty. And he's got that pace and he's got that trickery and he's got that creativity to find through passes for the likes of Benzema and Ronaldo and really make Real Madrid tick.
Didi, how about you? Who do you think is going to light up the tournament individually this year?
Well, I think it's very hard to see past Ronaldo and Messi, as Pete said. I quite like Ronaldo. There's been a stat this week. He just signed a new contract, 203 goals in 203 games. It's mind-blowing what he's done for the football club, yeah. And I think with the arrival of Isco and Bale, I think he will take the focus and the attention a lot more away from him. And I think he'll get, if anything, more space this coming season.
That's true from a practical level, of course, on the pitch, but what about mentally? Is he going to be affected by the fact that Bale is suddenly the main man?
I don't think Bale is the main man. I think there was an incident in the other week where they were arguing about a free kick and Ronaldo took it. I think it's still Ronaldo's duty to take free kicks, to take penalties. He's still the main man. Gareth Bale has to earn the respect. I think he started off well with a goal last weekend, but Ronaldo is still the main man, and if Real Madrid wants to win the Champions League, they need a fit in the free-scoring Ronaldo. And as I said, with the arrivals of a couple of forward players now, I can see him, if anything, only score more goals.
Which players and teams do you sense are going to struggle this year?
Well, judging by the way that the draw is panned out, a lot of the groups can effectively be split in two, into those you'd expect to qualify, those who you won't. But there are one or two groups where that line is a little bit more blurred. And I think particularly for Manchester United and Arsenal, they're going to find things a little bit tougher than they would expect being a pot one team, especially with the presence of Shakhtar Donetsk and Bayer Leverkusen and Real Sociedad complicating things for Man United. And Arsenal then find themselves in what's traditionally termed the group of death, and they've got Borussia Dortmund, last year's finalists Napoli, and also Marseille to contend with. So I think particularly from the off, I think those two pot one teams, Man United and Arsenal, will find it difficult. Did
you look at that Arsenal group, and as Pete says, the group of death? Is there any hope for Arsenal in that one?
I think there's a lot of hope for Arsenal. I don't see them as serious contenders to win the competition.
Why not?
Because I still think in a couple of positions they're short. I think with Flamini coming in, they have improved in the defensive midfield, but he's not getting any younger, and I think the defence and the goalkeeper are still an issue. If you want to win trophies, if you want to win a Champions League, I think you need an outstanding goalkeeper. I don't think Arsenal has got that. But in the last 16 years, I think since Arsene Wenger has been in charge, they qualify for the Champions League. Not only did they qualify, they went to the knockout stages in every single year. They have a tough group, yes. Dortmund, I think, look the strongest team in the group at the moment, but I think Marseille is not the force of old. And Napoli, there's still question marks about them. So I think it'll be between Arsenal and Napoli, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if Arsenal were to finish second in their group.
Many teams, any teams that you're looking at in the group stages that have a lot of expectation that you think will underperform?
Well, Bayern Munich is the obvious one because there's a lot of uncertainty already with Guardiola coming in, Sammer being in the papers on numerous occasions, Uli Hoeneß, defending the manager when Sama came out after the weekend and said we've been lethargic, we've not been good enough. The big one for me would be AC Milan. I think the club is a shadow of its former self. They're very reliant on Balotelli. You know what can happen if you rely on Balotelli. Sometimes you get the good, sometimes you get the bad, and they've got a tough group with Barcelona, who will win the group, we suppose. And I think Celtic and Ajax showed last season what they're capable of, and I think AC Milan is not a certainty to qualify for the knockout stages.
Every year, people seem to pop out from under the radar, even if they're established domestically, Didi. Who have you got your eye on to do that this year?
Well, I've got my eye on a player who I think could really reach the heights of European football. He plays for Dortmund, Ilkay Gündogan, who had a fantastic Champions League last season, so I don't know whether he qualifies under the radar. But I think if you look at the Dortmund team, I think a lot of players got the headlines last season, and it wasn't him. He scored that important penalty in the Champions League final. He's very young in age, and I think it's a big season for him with the World Cup coming up at the end of the season, and I think he will play a vital role again for Dortmund.
Why do you think it is that doesn't get as much hype as some of his teammates? Is it because it's quite an unfashionable position to play? It's quite workmanlike, isn't it?
It is, but then again, he's got a lot more to offer than winning the ball, because he's a very good passer. He can score goals. And then if you look at the forward line last season with Błaszczykowski, Royce, Götze and Lewandowski, they were the ones getting the headlines. And they've got two very good centre-halves in Subotic and Hummels. There were a few clubs interested in England. I think in the summer, I think there'll be a whole lot more next summer, because I think he's a fantastic player. And I think he'll be in the Germany lineup come the June or July next season, next year in Rio.
Pete, what about you? Individual players that you think are going to come through into the international focus?
But I think this could be the season where Paul Pogba registers himself not as one of the greatest underage midfield players in Europe, but actually one of the best midfield players in Europe, bar none. He's got that unique mix of power and athleticism and skill on the ball, and he combines that with great touch and great vision, and can defend and join his attackers at the other end of the pitch. And he looks like a player who's been ready-made for this system for Antonio Conte, and he looks like a player who can excel in and around that midfield area with Arturo Vidal and Andrea Pirlo.
What Man United would give to have him now, hey? What about teams, Didi? Any teams that you think maybe aren't necessarily amongst the favourites, but could have a deep run in the tournament?
Well, I think one who could surprise us all could be Celtic. I think they've got a serious chance to reach the knockout stage. When you go to Parkhead, it's a tough game at the best of times, and now when it gets colder, when AC Milan travels there, I think it'll be a tough game, and they've done it in the past.
All right, then, time to nail your colours to the mast, gentlemen. Pete, we'll start with you. Who's going to win this year's Champions League? And I want a compelling argument to support your selection.
This year could be the year that Real Madrid finally claim that 10th elusive European Cup. They've got a manager in there who knows how to win this tournament. He knows how to manage a squad in Carlo Ancelotti. He knows how to get the best out of the most exciting components in his team, and he knows how to marry that together with some defensive solidity. You know, he's made a big call in picking his goalkeeper in Diego Lopez. Rome wasn't built in a day, and I know that they've had their teething problems at the start of the season. But once this starting 11 gets settled, and they've got their defensive unit in place, which they have as good as at the moment, once they can pick a midfield and you know, thread the ball to the wings and get their danger players into the game like Bale and Ronaldo and Isco down the middle. And if you can get goals out of Karim Benzema as well, I think you've got a squad who has far too much on their day for any other team in Europe. And I think it could be Real Madrid who'll be celebrating come May.
It's hard to see past Real, isn't it, Didi?
Yeah, it's very good points by Peter. I think they've got a fantastic squad, and of the fancy teams, they're probably the most likely ones to win. But I'm going for one which is a bit under the radar. Borussia Dortmund, they're not fancied again this season.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know, to be honest. They lost one player in Götze, who is replaceable, I think. They brought Mkhitaryan in, who's had a very good start to his Dortmund career, scored a few goals in the league already, and it didn't take him long to adapt, and they kept the man who is not to be replaced, Lewandowski. He was going to go. He wanted to go. They said he's not going to go to Bayern Munich, so they kept him. He seems to have his head screwed on, started the season in great form, the way he finished last season. And I think with him and Royce, you always know you're going to get goals. And they've got Blazikowski, they've got Mkhitaryan now. They're the force going forward. They're having Gundogan and Bender, a very agile, energetic centre midfield who can pass the ball well. Kale can come in, the club captain, who can do a job, who's in his 30s now. And then the back four with Piszczek, Hummels, Subotic and Schmelz is very good, is very solid.
Have they got the depth in the squad?
I'm not sure whether they've got the depth as a Real Madrid, a Barcelona or a Bayern Munich, but they didn't need it last season, because if you remember the group with Ajax, Manchester City and Real Madrid, they went through last season unbeaten. They won 4 games, drew 2 games, and the 2 games they drew, they conceded last-minute equaliser. So theoretically, they could have won all 6 games, or should have won all 6 games. And then once they got into the knockout stages, they were a touch lucky against Malaga. But apart from that, I think they've been very impressive. And if they keep their main players on the pitch, they rely probably on 3 or 4 players, a Royce, a Lewandowski, a Gundogan, and maybe a Hummels or a Subotic. If they keep these players on the pitch, I think they've got cover in all the other areas. These players can't be replaced, but if they stay fit, I can see Dortmund going a long way again this season.
So that's it. Many thanks indeed to Diddy and to Pete. If you want to keep up to date with all the Champions League action, you can check out our Goal Live Match Centre. Bye for now.